SaleHoo for small importers? My honest experience. Ever wondered if you could actually make money selling products without buying a massive container full of inventory? Have you been itching to start an e-commerce store but feel overwhelmed by the thought of sourcing small quantities internationally? I've been there. The dream of starting an online business is exciting, but the reality of finding reliable suppliers who are willing to deal with small orders, a few dozen units, maybe even less, feels like hitting a brick wall. Most suppliers on the big directories seem to only talk in terms of thousands of units. So, how do you dip your toes in the water without drowning in unwanted stock or risking thousands of dollars on a shady overseas contact? That's where I turn to SaleHoo. Now, if you've heard of SaleHoo, you probably know them as a large, paid directory of wholesalers, dropshippers, and liquidators. But the core question for someone like us, the small quantity importer, is this: is SaleHoo actually useful for finding suppliers who will work with tiny minimum order quantities, or MOQs? I decided to find out for myself. I wanted to source a few niche products, each with an initial order of fewer than 50 units, to test the market before scaling up. Here is a breakdown of my experience, focusing on 3 key benefits that made it work for my small-scale needs, and one major caveat you need to be aware of. 1. The power of vetted suppliers. My biggest fear when importing small quantities is getting scammed or receiving junk. When you're only spending a few $100s, you don't have the leverage of a massive corporation. This is where SaleHoo shines. Every supplier listed in their directory is reportedly vetted by the SaleHoo team. When I searched for my specific product, I filtered the results and immediately had access to suppliers' detailed profiles. The critical piece of information here was the SaleHoo rating and, more importantly, direct feedback from other small-time buyers. This significantly reduced the anxiety of that initial contact and sampling process. It's like having a trusted middleman give you the green light before you even send your first email. 2. Discovering the small order-friendly wholesalers. The most pleasant surprise was how many suppliers in the directory explicitly listed low MOQs or even no MOQ. On larger, free sourcing sites, this information is often hidden, requiring you to contact dozens of companies just to hear, "Sorry, our minimum is 1,000 units." SaleHoo allowed me to filter specifically for suppliers who were already primed and willing to work with a new, small business. I found a supplier in my desired niche who specialized in customized packaging and was happy to do an initial run of just 30 units, enabling me to keep my initial investment incredibly low. This is the game changer for market testing. 3. Excellent educational resources. Beyond the directory, I found the training materials to be surprisingly valuable. As a beginner in international sourcing, I had questions about payment methods, Incoterms, and customs declarations for small shipments. SaleHoo offers guides and forums that break down these complex topics into manageable steps. This saved me hours of confusing Google searches and helped me communicate more professionally with my chosen supplier, giving the impression of a more experienced buyer. The major caveat: pricing. Here is the essential reality check. SaleHoo is a great tool for finding and trusting small quantity suppliers, but it is not necessarily a tool for finding the absolute lowest price. Because these suppliers are doing low-volume orders and are vetted, their unit prices will often be higher than what you might find by cold calling a factory in Asia. You are essentially paying a premium for the convenience, the trust, and the low MOQ flexibility. My takeaway? Use SaleHoo to find and secure a reliable supplier for your initial test order, the first 30 to 50 units. Once you've sold out, proven the product, and are ready to place an order of, say, 500 units or more, you can then use the knowledge gained to negotiate a much better rate with that same supplier or use that successful product data to confidently approach a higher volume factory elsewhere. SaleHoo is an on-ramp to international sourcing, not necessarily the final destination for mass production. For the small quantity importer, it's a worthwhile investment to mitigate risk and fast-track product testing. With that said, thanks for watching, and until next time.